business practitioner who has worked in the industry for over 6 years before joining SigniaGlobe.
16.
10, he worked for 7 years in Department of Stock Exchange and Department of Stock Exchange. Among other things, he's developed investor education collateral as well as the broker trade curriculum, which continues to be utilized today. It sounds quite interesting, but heavy. He holds a Bachelor in Science degree in Computer Science and Management. Is that a UWI?
Yes, please.
Well, please state so. Working towards personal financial planner designation. And Terry has a strong relationship with God and is an elder in this church. His mantra is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I feel less guilty from skipping church this morning. Welcome to the podium.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Now, it's such a privilege to stand before you in such an august body. This is, to be honest, the last place I'd imagined myself to be. When I turned my back on sciences in sixth form, having good grades, but just never feeling that it was I figured, that would be the last I would have an opportunity to speak to such a body as this. I recognized that my suspicions were correct, that, this was not for me. I married a nurse, and I remember when she was studying, she had this ability to come home or to come and call me on the phone and tell me, today I did this. And you're new to the relationship, you want to, pay attention to what's going on and listen. And she was a storyteller. So when she was finished, I could smell the things, I could taste the things, and I had to say, what? After a while in the relationship, I said, listen, we could talk anything else, but let's not talk about the hospital and what you're doing. So I know that I admire doctors who are the healers of the nation. And I am privileged to be here to address you on investments, managing your money and retirement, what happens after you retire. As I begin, I want to mention about who we are. SigniaGlobe. Aha. Yes, it works. Signia was a brand from before. Globe was a brand. In September of 2018, last year, two powers became one. Progress. This is SigniaGlobe. We have shareholders, which are household names. K. Shepherd owns 40%, Grace Kennedy Jamaica owns 40%, and Massey United owns 40%. We're in the financial services industry, and we are committed to our vision of becoming the leading regional financial institution, creating shareholder value by providing innovative and trusted solutions through highly skilled and motivated team of professionals. But if you forget everything else, remember, think outside the bank. Now, at SigniaGlobe, we have certain core values that I want to make sure you know. Trust, integrity, excellence, respect, continuous learning. We're customer-centric, and we're community-spirited. Just piggybacking on Dr. Charles's presentation, so because we're this way, there are certain things I'm going to be covering in a short burst of time that I will be doing a general practitioner style presentation. And there are only certain things I can drill down and go to the surgeon level. So we can give you the general overview, but if you have additional questions, feel free to contact us at the office and we will be able to work. Those who are specialists in particular areas, they'll be able to assist you a bit better in that regard. Now, we have several products. We're not a bank, but we do many of the services that you would get at your bank. Both from an individual level and from your practice perspective. Financing the new vehicles, consolidation of your loans, land loans. I want to zero in on the savings instruments, the fixed deposits, the high interest call accounts, the brokerage, the mutual funds, but also from a corporate perspective, we offer loans and leases for you in terms of your business. So those are things that you can consider. So as you ponder where you're going to get your next vehicle or where you're going to get that new equipment, always remember, think outside the bank. So I have a disclaimer for you. Now, financial services is a wide cross-section of areas. There are a lot of things that persons get involved in. So it can be confusing. And we know that there is no one-size-fits-all. And we are not the type of professionals who try to fit you in a mold. We recognize that everybody is different. Everybody is unique. And as a result of you being unique and different, we need to sit down and talk to you about your situation before we go into any further. Now, in such a short presentation, as I mentioned, it's going to be impossible to cover every single scenario. So we're going to do a helicopter view of these matters so that we can then have a more detailed discussion at a later date. So to use the vernacular we're in a room of doctors, if I were to come and say, well, my toe is hurting, I'm sure that all the GPs would start to guess what is going on. And most of you who have pathophys, I think that's the area, pathophysiology training, you would be able to say, well, this is most likely the scenario that you would have. However, if we had to have a scenario where we talked about a 49-year-old individual who was exhibiting cardiovascular incidents but yet had a regular ECG, those situations would be more, a specialist would go into that. And for those of you who are looking and thinking, where did they get this information from? There is the BAMP, last newsletter from BAMP, there was an article by Dr. Ariana Harvey, where it spoke about a particular situation, which was an interesting case on how it was a unique scenario and how it worked itself out, and it was outside of the norm of what doctors would usually interact with. So obviously there are different scenarios, and we're going to try to deal with the general situation, but there may be times where you may need to have a more detailed discussion with us, and we welcome that. So what is investing? And what does it have to do with your future? Investing is the act of committing money or capital to an endeavor with the expectation of obtaining additional income or profit. Unfortunately, money doesn't grow on trees. So we have to actively manage our finances so that they will grow. Let's be honest. We need money for most things in our lives. And because it doesn't just fly into our wallets, we must be meticulous and strategic in how we operate and use our funds. We have a limited time frame to make this money because at some stage we want to retire, we want to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor. So we cannot afford to be wasteful. And this is where investing comes in. When you're retiring, and this is something that a lot of people miss and find themselves in trouble. Do I have enough money saved to maintain my standard of living? Do I still have income? Will I still have income coming in after I finish actively working? Can I be certain that I won't outlive my savings? And what will happen to me if I have health challenges? Oftentimes we look forward to retirement and we want to retire, we just want to stop. But oftentimes persons are confused about, exactly how much money am I supposed to have saved to ensure that I'm able to live a life that is comfortable. Now, the data says that you should retire with at least 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement expenses. So that means that as you are thinking, if you're looking at, you're making $100,000 a year, you should have $80,000 coming in each year in revenue for that period of time. That sounds like a lot. It does. It does. And one of the things that a lot of persons miss is that, well, I pay NIS. I do realize that some doctors, you may be self-employed, and even though you may pay the NIS for the persons who work in your office, sometimes you don't treat yourself as an employee, and you don't ensure that you pay in all of your contributions. I do encourage you to do that. However, I want you to just realize this, that the way NIS works, the money you pay in is not the money that is for you. You're paying in money for the persons who have gone before. And the persons coming after you, they're the persons who are paying for you. And here is the issue here. If you were making only $4,000 a month, you're paying NIS, when you retire, NAS will only cover 55% of your pre-retirement income. Only 55% if you made $4,000 a month. If you were at $12,500 a month or $100,000 a year, the pension that you get from NAS will only be 21% of what you would have made pre-retirement. And if you were up there in the $240,000, $20,000 a month, it's really only 12% of your pre-retirement income. So as you can see, it is necessary for you to make some informed decisions now to ensure that as you retire, you're able to retire comfortably. Because it's a shock when persons retire and realize they can no longer maintain the standard of living that they had before, and a lot of persons end up in depression and are forced, not because you want to work more, but you're forced to pay the bills to continue to work even into your 70s and 80s. So it is important from early, the earlier you start, the less pressure you will be under to be able to cover your expenses and retire comfortably. So the other questions that you need to make sure you understand. Where is this income going to come from? Are you going to have, or do you have an employer pension? Will you be receiving a gratuity? Do you have investments that you're able to draw down on? And do you have, is there the potential for you to take that lump sum of funds that you have there and put it into an annuity? Because an annuity provides you with that peace of mind that you know, I am going to get a certain amount of money every month, irregardless. You set and you make your decisions from early at your retirement. I expect to live into my 90s, and therefore I am going to ensure that I have it for an extended period of time. So you make decisions when you're making the annuity to ensure that you get funds coming in on a monthly basis, just like if you were working with a salary. So those are all things and decisions you need to make and to start to plan when you're thinking about your investment goals. Now, I want to just stop and pause one moment for something that is a lot of persons take for granted. I work with the Barbados Stock Exchange primarily, but we also work on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the Trinidad Stock Exchange, and very soon, hopefully, we'll be working on further field. However, the key thing here is that on our local exchange, there are not a lot of companies on the market. There are not a lot of companies. And that is by and large because a lot of persons who have strong companies are hesitant to make the step towards being public. Being public requires an additional level of transparency. Being public may lead to ongoing disclosures over time. However, there are certain benefits to being a listed company. So here I am speaking to a group of doctors, some of you who may have practices which are well established, have strong clientele, profitable. Those, you and your companies are in prime positions to look beyond just loan financing, but also to separate the company from yourself and unlock that money that has been, that equity you've built up in your company and make it a public company. That way you have access to your funds in a way where you can use it to recruit persons in stock options, and also there are many benefits to this area, which I find that a lot of Barbadians are not realizing the benefits that comes with it. And I would welcome the opportunity. I don't have the time to go through it now, but I would welcome the opportunity to talk to some persons who are interested in that area. We may consider, what if I am able, I've worked 20 years, 25 years in building this business. The business has a good foundation. How can I unlock the equity that I've built up and multiply the earnings that I have in this company for the wider cross-section? And therefore, you're able to retire. You don't need to be at work, but you're still making returns from your practice over time. That is something that you can look at, or your company over time. I know that even in the midst of doctors, there are some of you who consider yourself to be entrepreneurs and love the joy of doing those things. And it would be an area that we would be happy to discuss with you as we go as well. Now, one of the things that happens sometimes when it comes to investments is that persons tend to start thinking about investment vehicles. And when you look at the image there, you think about the cars, the vans, the SUVs, the trucks, the planes. We run to stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and we get that point. But what is most important for persons to understand is yourself. Self-awareness is critical. Because in reality, everybody is different. Your age determines what is best for you. Your time horizon, how long will you need this investment to work? Your financial situation, a person who is brought down by debt is in a different position than a person who is now starting out, who is free to press on. What are your personal goals? There are some persons for retirement. Retirement isn't retirement unless you can travel twice and 3 times a year. For others, it's just being home in the garden with the grandchildren. So these things speak to who you are, what is important to you, and based on that, it is from there that you start to form a profile of what instruments should I use, what vehicles should I use to help me reach my overall goals. And it's important to be realistic. Oftentimes persons would come to my office and say, well, I want to put down $1,000 and I want to make back $2,000 next month. The reality is there are times when the market functions like that. But when it functions like that is the exception rather than the rule. Oftentimes to turn that money over, it may take you 3 years to get that return that you're looking for. But it requires for you a discipline of ensuring that you're going to be consistent to be able to multiply the funds you have. Here's the reality. If you are putting money in the bank for savings, you're not helping yourself. That is the reality. We have come to an environment where our savings rates are 0.05%. And then they charge you $10 every month for your savings. So you're paying money to keep your money in the bank. You're much better served looking to invest and help bring returns for yourself, which will help you ultimately in the future. So, based on your risk profile, all the things that I would have mentioned before would tell you about your risk profile. For a person who's coming close to retirement, you may be thinking of preservation of capital. For a person who has a little more time to work with, or who is a little more willing to take on risks, you can go the more moderate side. And for those persons who are younger and have more time to recover, you can go to the most aggressive extent. Not aggressive that you can't sleep, but aggressive in terms of your instruments that you're going. I tell you this, if you find yourself unable to sleep about investments you've made, you're taking on too much risk. So everyone is different. And it's important to understand yourself to be able to make informed decisions about what investments are best for you. So at SigniaGlobe, we like to group our products in this way. For those persons who are looking for conservative preservation of capital, we would pitch the fixed deposits, the government bonds. And we know we had some challenges with government bonds last year, but there are persons now who, even in this environment, the strips that are there, they're now tradable on the market, and persons who have them can try to sell them. And on the other side of the coin, persons who have access to capital can still look to purchase some at discounted prices, which may still be beneficial to you in the long run. So those are options still there. The beauty of a fixed deposit is that you know exactly what you're getting and when you're going to get your interest and when you're going to get your returns. The more moderate ones, you can look at the mutual funds. There are several mutual fund companies in Barbados, and we at SigniaGlobe, we don't have a mutual fund. But here's the reality. If you go to, I really shouldn't call names of funds, but you go to ABC Corporation and you want to buy their mutual fund, they're going to tell you, my mutual fund is the best thing since sliced bread. You go to XYZ Corporation and say, yes, no, this is the one. What we have and what we are able to provide is that we're able to say, well, oh, okay. We don't have loyalty to any of them. We are agents for all of them. And we can give you an idea of ABC is performing at this rate in this fund. XYZ is performing at this rate, and give you the opportunity to invest at SigniaGlobe and make those payments to the various funds that you wish. We fill out all the forms at our location, and there's no cost to you as part of that process. So it really is a benefit there in terms of helping you to make best decisions with your money. And then finally, if you're more aggressive, you have a longer time horizon, stocks are in fact a good option for you. So I'm drawing to a close now. And I just wanted to show you a couple slides on the performance of my area, the stock market. 2 minutes? Yes. All right. So if you look at the stock market, the figures here, you'll see that markets go up, markets go down. So over the last year, in 2018, many of the markets were having difficulties. The best performing market in all the world was the Jamaica Stock Exchange in our region. And you can see our local Barbados Stock Exchange was up 10.84%. If you move forward to this year, year to date, you'll see that a lot of the stock exchanges which struggled last year are now have rebounded. The Jamaica Stock Exchange has continued its good performance. It was up 31% last year. It's up 32% this year. The Trinidad has gone from 0.49 to 10.52. The NASDAQ was down 4%. It's now 28%, almost 29% for the year to date. So you can see that the thing about the market, the stock market, is that there will be times when the market will go up, there will be times the market will go down. It's important to understand what you're getting involved in so that you are able to mitigate the risk that you are carrying. So there, at that point, we're going to pause now to take questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joe. I really enjoyed your presentation. I think about retirement a lot more, especially when leaving campus every day, one step closer to retirement. I wasn't quite sure from your graphic where I sat in terms of age. I wasn't necessarily looking for the questions or comments. I think the audience is a bit shell-shocked because, I mean, certainly what shocked me is that you need 80% of your salary to maintain.
Usually that is what the figures say. But remember that when you're looking at your investments, you're not just talking about your pension. Right. What persons think is you need to cover it in pension, but you may have a rental income, a house that provides rental income. You may have residual income from your business. Those are all things that add up. But the reality is that you don't need to have that amount. That is usually if you want to just maintain your standard, your current standard. There's some persons who will be comfortable instead of traveling 3 times a year, I'm just going to travel once. And they'll be happy with that. So ultimately it comes down to where you are, what is important to you, and how you wish to live after retirement. Yes, please.
So we have 2 people at the podium. Age before beauty, and now we're going to let you choose who. This is Hines, Director of Radio and Service.
Yeah, thank you very much for an excellent thought-provoking presentation. I have been asking myself as to start putting my money that my figures put it in the bank. So I'm very happy to hear what you have to present. However, in terms of investment,
Yes.
the moderate one, I know the figures at no cost. I think it's too good to be true.
Okay.
I want you to tell me what's in it for you.
Okay.
I'm sure you know
That's a good question. All right. Well, when you go to any mutual fund company, you have these things, these fees which come from the fund, which they're either front-loaded or back-loaded. So basically, you put in $100, there may be a 2% fee at the outset of the opening of the mutual fund to start the mutual fund. That is used to pay the administrators as part of the process of the building of the fund. Now, when an agent does that same work, the agency gets that portion of the fund. So you're not paying anything different than you would have done had you gone directly to, and I'm going to call names now because I'm not going to offend anybody, is Sagicor, Republic Bank, Royal Fidelity, Fortress. So when you go to any of these funds, you open a mutual fund, there is a front-loaded fee or there is a back-loaded fee, and when an agent does that, those fees go to the agent. So it's not anything different that you would have paid had you gone directly there. So the benefit is that you have access to greater information without having to pay an additional cost for my expertise. Okay?
We had one Always interested. But I think your talk seems to be catering to the more elderly of us, the fellows who perhaps have money that they can put in the consider for stock markets, mutual funds and stuff like that. But I always think that if they're going to be successful in investing, it really has to start when they're very young. Mm-hmm. And could you give some tips to the true millennials on the 30s and stuff about how they should start thinking about it, what are the best investments for that age, you know, the kind of low risk, because they have no money, and so they really can't afford to lose stuff, so you have to go in at the low risk stage. But that's where you build the foundation of a successful portfolio when you do get older.
Yes, that's a valid point. Here's the reality of the situation. I had this presentation where I had the Three Little Pigs illustration, and basically it said that who in their 20s has started meticulously putting down $500 every month from the time they're in their 20s and adding it up and putting it into the market for that period of time. The power of compounding is greater because you've had 30 years before your retirement than someone who waits 10 years before your retirement and putting down $10,000 every year for the next 10 years. So it's not a matter when it comes to investing. Persons like to think, all right, I'm going to put down, I'm going to wait till I get a windfall, I'm going to put $10,000 down one time. But you're much better served because I have lived the experience where when you're thinking, all right, I have money, the car breaks down. Or you have an expense that comes up. It happens all the time. So what you're better served in doing is being methodical. Every month you allocate, well, if you can afford 10%, that is fantastic. But whatever you can do every month, you're in a much better position by doing that than waiting for that windfall to come, which, as we know, if you've lived it, you know it may not come. Or when you get it, something else requires the funds immediately. So consider that.
One other question from under 30.
Personal experience with losing money. I'm very cautious with investing. I know I'm at the end of it. But in regards to like investing in people, I have a problem.
Yes.
Investing worldwide is going to have a problem. Investing out of guy here who went off to North, and I think he was a broker. So now, when I came to you, would you investigate the companies that I really want to invest in, or do you just say what I should invest?
Okay, yes, that is a valid point. A lot of persons have been bitten in Barbados and across the region. And once bitten, twice shy. The key thing to note is regulation is critical for any investment. And anybody you're dealing with, you must make sure that they are registered with the Financial Services Commission. I had to turn in a person who was conducting unregulated investments in Barbados. And a lot of persons think, oh yes, these one fantastic options are here, and they go. So it's important to check to make sure the person you're dealing with is registered with the Financial Services Commission. But to answer your question in particular, you are going to make the decisions. I will help you to make decisions. I will not be giving you financial advice. I will give you information to help you to make a decision. If you tell me about what you're looking to do, what are your objectives, I may be able to help you along. Well, based on what you're looking for, here are the companies which pay the best interest. And then you're able then to make a determination on which ones you wish to go on. So I'm not taking your funds, you're not putting it in a blind trust and then, no. These are your funds. You call me and let me know when you wish to go. And one point I want to make is that if you are keeping your funds that you're saving in the same account that you're using, your operational account, you're going to have difficulty saving. So please create a separate account where your savings go. We have a wonderful product called our call account, where we allow persons to send funds to that account on a monthly basis. The fund is set up, the account is set up in such a way whereby you have to wait 3 business days to get the funds. Not that we don't have the funds, but because that's the way we're set up. And a lot of persons tell me, man, I don't want that money, but that 3 days caused me to pause. And when they look back and see how much money is sitting on that account, they're quite pleasantly surprised. So I do encourage you, set up an account where you have your